Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's TX141 here, bringing you another Ace in the Day gameplay in the War Thunder arcade mode. Today, the first of many gameplays for 2014 hopefully, I'm bringing out my Focke-Wulf 190 F-8. To give you a little bit of historical background firstly, the Focke-Wulf 190 originally started off in, I believe, 1941 as a low to mid altitude German fighter. It was very well liked by pilots and it was absolutely terrifying against the then Spitfire Mark V. The original series, or iteration of the Focke-Wulf, was the A series, culminating in the A8. The plane we're looking at, the F-8, is the ground attack version of the A8, which was designed to engage tanks along with other ground targets, rather than fighters. So talking about the A8 had a lot of armour around the cockpit and it also had an uprated engine. The F-8 differs from the A8 in the fact that while the A8 had two 13mm machine guns mounted just above the prop, two inboard 20mm MG151s and two outboard 20mm MG151s, the F-8 sacrificed the two outer 20mm cannons and replaced them with either additional bomb racks or, in the iteration we see here, two 30mm cannon pods, although I'm not sure if the F-8 actually mounted those cannon pods in real life. In War Thunder we have those cannon pods, funnily enough, and this plane pretty much handles like its real life counterpart, in the fact due to the extra weight of the uprated engine, and also the F-8 has a lot more armour around the cockpit compared to its A8 counterpart. This plane is very sluggish to handle in a general dogfight or when you're trying to climb or just making a general turn. Additionally, the F-8's engine was uprated from the A8's engine and made for very low altitudes. I'm talking about 1,000 metres or less with regards to sea level. Therefore, you'll probably be wondering on this cliff coast ground strike gameplay why I'm keeping my F-8 up at 5,000 metres and why I've climbed all the way up here in the first place. Well, with patch 1.37 I've noticed that there are a lot of games in which, well, it's primarily ground strike of course, a lot of games in which Year 2s, B-17s, Wellingtons and all the medium to heavy bombers really decide to base rush, take out the airfield and the game's over within say 5 minutes. With the F-8 you can counter this very well because you'll be the last line of defence in my opinion, with your twin 30mm pods on the wings and your 20mm cannons as backup, plus your 13mm to take out any sort of gunners, the gunners or the pilot. The setup I'm using is 500m gun convergence, 30 minutes of fuel, air target ammunition in both the 30mm and the 20mm cannons, and I'm using the HEIT/IAI ammunition belts in the 13mm machine guns. That's quite a mouthful, wasn't it? So anyway, I'm a bit rusty with commentaries, just come off my hiatus which I was explaining in the 2013 Hellcat video, and as I said on this Cliff Coast ground strike gameplay, just sitting around to begin with, just making sure the airfield was clear. You notice that Year 2 decided to dive but had a number of fighters on it, our fighters. And what I'm noticing, our Year 2, which is trying to climb away from this Focke-Wulf 190, is in a bit of a pickle. So I decided to just make my way over, keep an eye on that Ishak 185 just in case. With that Focke-Wulf 190 A8 being very unaware of my presence, I decided to take him out, as you saw there, and proceed over to this I-185. Sorry for calling it an Ishak, it's not, I don't think. One thing to note regarding the F-8, a lot of enemy pilots will not expect you to be up at these altitudes, and as a result, as you're seeing here, this 185 is completely ignoring me and is more interested in trying to catch our Year 2 before it's too late. However, as you're going to see, I close the distance and start throwing out a couple of bursts just to get the 185's attention. Very shortly, of course. Zooming in and taking a shot. Now my intention was not to take the plane out but to force it into a turn or an evasive combat manoeuvre, at which point I would hopefully get the 185 mid-turn or while they're trying to dive away, as you're about to see. Managed to take the 185 out and I'm noticing the Year 2 heading directly towards us, or towards our airfield more importantly. And with that nasty heavy bomber out of the way, I noticed a B-25 on the enemy team's just pretty much spawned. And instead of going straight for the B-25, I decided to just climb up, so I don't have to run into the B-25 head on, and reload my guns. Now there'll be a number of you asking, is the F-8 made brilliant by... is the F-8 only playable because of the existence of the 30mm cannon pods? Yes and no. If you don't have the 30mm cannon pods, this plane plays incredibly similarly to a A5U2, i.e. the Focke-Wulf 190 A5U2, except you just change the 7.92s for 13mm machine guns and you sacrifice a little bit of your turn ability. But you can still go for fighters and make boom and zoom runs. And as you'll see, this Yak-3 has been gradually climbing up towards me, and so I decide to dive down at this point and clear my way through, noticing that the enemy airfield's been taken out and I want some more kills. Taking out that Yak-3P, I decide to continue with my run, trying to look for another target. I unfortunately just missed that Yak-9K, although one of the 20mm shells did hit, and I decided to take out this Corsair. You only need a very quick burst and finish off this Spitfire, completely shattering it to pieces and getting it off the back of the Ur-2 on our team, which took out the enemy airfield. And now I'm just flying away, and as you'll notice, we've got the wonderful dive speed which the Focke-Wulf A-series planes have as their main trait, and I just roll away, do a bit of hooliganism and show off as I head towards our base and end that match. So as I bring up the scoreboard for this match, I'd like to say that I'm going to also attach another gameplay to this video because it's rather short. But anyway, a little bit of scoreboard analysis. In this game we managed to get 6 kills, very quickly mind you, and the game was over very soon. We managed to get 1,232 research points, which is quite good, and we managed to get just shy of 24,000 silver lions, which is an impressive haul. That was quite a fun game, and really it shows that the F-8 can be used as the last line of defence. While we never had to engage any bombers head on near our airfield, we were there in the position that we managed to take out that Ur-2 before it got anywhere near the base, and force that B-25 down towards the ground so it can't attack the airfield. However, I'm just about to bring you out another gameplay. As you can see that we came top on the leaderboard for our team, but I'll just bring out another gameplay for you. Okay, so now we transfer to the ground strike map Iron Range. As you're going to see, I will use the F-8 in a very similar capacity as in the previous gameplay. I decided to make my initial climb as always, strain the engine to bits. However, what you also notice that in this game, the enemy team's a little bit more aware of my position on the map. And the fact that there are a couple of enemy fighters which are up high. I mean, we had the I-185 up high in the previous game, however that didn't really pay attention to us. So as I go for my initial climb, I'd just like to say Happy New Year to you all. I'm sorry I didn't put any messages out, put any videos up saying Happy New Year like most YouTubers do. However, as I said, this is a hobby, not my life. The F-8, I've got to admit, has grown on me quite a bit. Originally, when I used to play it without the 30mm pods, I was getting fed up with it because the 13mm and even the 20mm cannons do require you to be within 400 metres to have an effective shot on target. Again, we are using the same setup as in the previous video, and this video, sorry, not in the previous video, in the previous gameplay. And this gameplay didn't achieve as many kills. We just managed to scrape the ace in this gameplay. Bit of a spoiler, I know, but you'll see why it was a bit of a difficult game, because the entire game was kept down low. Most players decided to stay down low and fight down low, but that's just luck of the draw, and we had to make the most of it at the end. As you can see, as always, I'm looking at the scoreboard, checking what the enemy team has, and I'm noticing they're not really bringing out any major heavy bombers. I'm not seeing any Yurs, and I've only seen, I think it was one Wellington which could pose a threat with its 4,000 pound cookie. That was the nickname given to the bomb for those who do not know. So anyways, I try and make my way up to as high an altitude as possible, performing a very strained Immelman turn here. This just goes to show how weak the engine is at higher altitudes. If you are looking to predominantly just dogfight this plane rather than go on bomber defense, I'd recommend altitudes below 2,000 meters, because that's where this engine performs exceptionally well. In a dive, you'll be outrunning most planes, minus say the Typhoon and the Tempest, and for a rank 4 plane that's a good thing, because this Focke-Wulf, the F-8, with its very heavy nose, it can pull away and get a lot of distance on a chasing foe very easily. But anyway, talking about the gameplay more, I've noticed an enemy Wellington, the one I saw on the scoreboard, and what you'll find funny in a minute is our Heinkel 111 H16 takes out this Wellington, as you're about to see. There you go. And I was quite amused at this point, and I thought to myself, well, we might as well let the Heinkel take everything out. And as you can see in the distance, there's an enemy Spitfire, and another enemy fighter which I haven't been able to identify. And I noticed they're chasing our Yer, and by the time I make my way over there, it's most likely the Yer's been killed, and the Spitfire and the other fighter will have turned to face me. Now don't get me wrong folks, this plane can go head on quite well in a last ditch resort, because of the extra armour that's around the cockpit, and also the fact that the pilot's seat is lower compared to the other Focke-Wulf A-series planes, which means it's a lot less likely that you'll experience a pilot knockout. Speaking of knocking out things, I noticed that an enemy Corsair is heading over towards our B-17. While I'm quite a distance away, I engage the WEP fully and I try to make my way over to save the B-17 from being killed, although it does take a bit of damage from the Corsair's cannons. The Corsair is completely devoted to taking out the B-17, although I notice they've gone into a slight dive, so I roll over and try and hit them. Luckily, the last couple of cannon shells from the 30mm cannons managed to hit the Corsair's pilot. And I notice here a P-51 Mustang, most likely the P-51D, has decided to climb, although I cannot understand why they didn't decide to go head on in a last ditch attempt rather than just try and climb away from me. So with 2 kills already, I'm noticing an enemy B-17 has just spawned. However, I do not like spawn killing in all honesty. I'd rather give the B-17 a chance. And as you'll see in the chat box in the bottom left hand corner very shortly, I type into the B-17 down or die. Simple reason, if they go for a dive, which they just have, then I don't have to harass them. I've done my job, I've forced the B-17 away from our airfield, unless it decides to try and do a low altitude bombing run. But my teammates should be able to take care of that. And I even type in thank you to the B-17 just to point out I'm not here to be annoying to anyone, I'm just doing my job as an anti-bomber plane, or in the anti-bomber role. So I decided to turn around and I noticed that our Heinkel 111, which seems to not have been able to take out this Spitfire, okay that's a bit of sarcasm of course, which hasn't taken out this Spitfire, has got it coming towards it. But by then I noticed a P-51D is right below me and gradually trying to climb. I believe it's the same player as previously in the P-51, although that's not a reason why I'm going for that plane. I'm going for it because I noticed it's climbing pretty quickly. Well, it was climbing pretty quickly, so I decided to dive on it. Weaving about to make sure they can't predict my attack pattern or path, and I open fire. You only need 1 burst, as you saw there once again, and although you only have 70 rounds of 30mm cannon ammunition, they're very effective. At this point I decide to roll over and see what I can attack down low, although I notice I'm very close to the enemy airfield, so I go for the target that's on the fringe of the airfield so I don't have to worry about flak. Fortunately, a P-47D is broken away, and now broken to bits. So with 4 kills, I decide to point my nose back up towards the sky and climb for a little bit after a bit of a boom and zoom run, although I notice our Heinkel 111 is still being harassed by the Spitfire, and so I decide to assist. Having to use WEP to make sure I can keep my speed up and engage the Spitfire that's gradually coming down with the Heinkel, I open fire. You'll note that I completely missed with my first burst. The second burst did a little bit of damage, and as you can see already, the lack of manoeuvrability in this plane due to the heavy nose is really killing me, although this Spitfire for some reason did not decide to do a split S. Having achieved the critical hit, I noticed that I've damaged their tail, although I'm not sure whether the tail controls have been completely eliminated. So I decided to just keep following this Spitfire Mark 5B, although I soon realised that actually their tail or their wing control's completely gone, because they can't roll over and break away. So I just decided to break underneath the Spitfire and fly away, and watch as they gradually crash into the ground. As soon as they touch the ground, that makes my ace. So again, on this ground ground strike gameplay on Iron Range, I believe it is, it hasn't really been the most exciting gameplay you could say, but we fulfilled our role. We defended the airfield, we've taken out some enemy fighters harassing our bombers, and we've just made sure that the game hasn't ended in a quick flurry of bombing runs. Although this game's about to come to its end, unfortunately, because my team's been very efficient in taking out ground targets and the smaller enemy bases. It just goes to show that, despite being predominantly a ground attack plane, the F-8 can be used in the dogfighting / interception role. I was going to bring you a gameplay with just the 13mm and the 20mm, although really you can watch the A5U2 gameplay, because that's pretty much how the plane plays out. It's just a bit more sluggish, except it still has the lovely roll rate. So as I bring up the scoreboard, I'd like to once again extend my welcoming Happy New Year to you all. And as you can see, we've just achieved under 1,300 research points and 20,500 silver lines, or just over that. I didn't say this, but the plane's pretty much fully upgraded, minus the new 20mm cannons, and it's been a worthy grind. And with the new research system in patch 1.37, I'm quite glad, in all honesty. But anyway, having achieved the ace in this game, just goes to show that this plane is rather consistent in the role I've described, although it can be used as a fighter plane down low if necessary, with its rather impressive engine. And don't also rule out the fact it can be used as a ground attacker, although that's not my intention when I play War Thunder. Bringing up the team scores, you'll see that we managed to achieve first place again from taking out 5 planes, and it was quite simple and quite an easy game. Anyway, I've been TX141. I hope you've enjoyed both the gameplays. Sorry if my commentary's been a bit rough, but anyway, take care and good luck in the skies until next time.